it's almost adventure season and kind of dilemma on what to do. It is no secret that I use my action camera a lot, primarily as one of my main cameras, especially when I'm out on the water, whether it be fishing, kayaking, or whatever, because I don't want to subject my other cameras to being wet and risking them. But kind of a dilemma on what I'm going to do for this year and where to go forward with action cameras from here. So, as you know, the camera up here that I'm filming on right now is the GoPro 7. I've yet to replace this camera as my desk camera because I'm looking at a few other options. But as you know, I had to retire that one from using it outdoors because the weatherproof door broke off the side, and also as you've seen in other videos where I'm recording, that the video, even though it's set to linear mode, will change to wide mode on its own and go back and then just keep changing. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how often it's going to happen, how quickly. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all in video. Sometimes it happens every few seconds, and then I have to start all over with recording. Plus, also, long range, it overheats, and I've had it shut down. So I retired that from the field. Then I went and got the GoPro Hero 11 a few years back. As you can see, I got the Creator Edition with the Media Mod and the Volta Grip. I will tell you that I never use the Volta Grip outside of just being a handle to carry it around. The reason being is, like all the other complaints out on YouTube and the internet, said that when you plug this into the Media Mod, it'll cause your GoPro to freeze up. And just, you have to power it off, take the internal battery out, put it back in. It doesn't matter whether you have the battery or not. You just have to basically get rid of some sort of power coming in so that the thing shuts down before it restarts. And what I found was absolutely interesting. Not only is it the Volta Grip, but I have other kind of tripod battery packs that I have plugged into the Media Mod, and I've also plugged it into the GoPro without the Media Mod, and unfortunately that did the same thing. It just, occasionally it would just freeze up the GoPro. I would have to make sure there's absolutely no power coming in, whether it be removing the internal battery, disconnecting the battery pack or whatever. So powering this thing off an external battery is pretty much become useless. You may have saw in my last video I started having audio trouble. The audio started getting very weird on it. Then it would go back to crystal clear, then it would sound muddy, sometimes it would sound echoey like I'm in an untreated room, but then go back to crystal clear. I don't know. And just as we're talking, just like that, the Hero 7 went to wide view on its own. So yeah, regarding the audio on the 11, I don't know what's going on with that and why it's doing that, but I absolutely love the Media Mod on this thing because the audio has been great, especially with the little foam wind protector, and I love the fact that it has the two hot shoes, one there and one, well, actually cold shoes, there's no power, one there, one there that I can hook up a light or whatever. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the audio. The other thing that happened is I started noticing that when the power is off and I just push record at the top, which powers it up and begins recording, this thing used to start recording right away. Now it powers up and then it takes 1 to 3 seconds and actually starts the recording at black and fades it in, which filming wise, that'd be great if I want to transition. But the problem is, this is an action camera. If I'm out on my kayak or I'm out fishing and I get a bite and I want to start filming, reeling in this big fish, I don't want it fading in. I just wanted to start recording right away. And basically, I could lose some seconds of footage that way. But yet, I don't want to leave the thing powered on all the time because that is just going to drain my batteries if nothing is going on in between clips. So I went out and I started Googling, why is the video starting to fade in versus recording? The only thing I could find was on a GoPro forum that's actually on the GoPro site that somebody talked about their clips are now fading in from black. And there was only one response that was listed from GoPro. There's no other articles about this, but there's only one response that's listed from GoPro that basically said when you start recording or power it on, it will fade in, but that should never be on your clip. That's just an action of the camera powering up. If it's fading in on the actual recording of your clip, like you get in a transitions of between clips that some people do when they edit their videos where it's actually fading from black into the picture. All it said was that is not a normal function. And then the thread was discussions closed. So there's been no further information about whether this is something they know about and they're going to issue a firmware fix for it. There's no known fix at all for it. No reason why it's occurring. Just that this is not a normal occurrence, discussion closed. So at this point, I am really at a loss on what I am going to do for an action camera come this season. I'm probably going to go ahead and use both action cameras until they totally die, because the thought of spending another $300 to $500 on an action camera, and then depending on what I'm going to go with, I would probably have to start over anyway with all new batteries, except for after GoPro 11 they haven't changed the batteries, but between 7 and 8 they did change the batteries, which is why that and the problems people were reporting why I skipped generation 8, 9, and 10, because the 11 supposedly fixed everything. Considering that the first one I've gotten probably about 5, 6, 7 years use out of it, and I mean it still works, but it's a little wonky. But yet the 11's only one generation old because the newest one out there is a 12. I haven't seen any information about them releasing a 13 yet. So it's only a few years old, and this one's starting to, I don't know, act a little bit strange. I don't know if I'm going to go GoPro in the future. I mean, I love my GoPro. I use it constantly. It's one of my main cameras, especially as an outdoor channel. I use it camping, kayaking, hiking. I love, going hunting with it because without the handle grip, it's small enough that I can slip into my pocket and just pull it out and record. So like I said, I'm going to use the thing until it totally dies. But going forward, I don't know what I'm going to choose. I thought about going with the DJI. I keep calling it DJI. I've been doing that for years. The DJI Osmo cameras, whether that be the 4 their little action camera. But here's the thing, Google has pulled off the Android Play Store all DJI apps, and that's because they're a Chinese-based company and they're concerned about the security flaws and things being sent to China that could show our infrastructure or whatever, and propose a security list. Now Congress has introduced a bill that would effectively ban all DJI drones from the U.S. skies because of this security risk. So the Army grounds all its drones over security concerns. Also, there is this discussion where right now they're also banning the DJI drones from use in police and fire efforts. So, which means a fire department fighting a wildfire could not launch a DJI drone to surveillance the area and its firefighting controls. Not only is DJI on this list, Autel, which is another Chinese drone maker and a very popular drone, they're on the list. But unfortunately, the discussion goes a little bit further where it says that the U.S. may consider banning DJI altogether and actually making it illegal to use, which is going to get a lot of flack because now you're talking about drones, you're talking about the little pocket Osmo action cameras, you're talking about the Osmo Pocket little tiny gimbal camera, you're talking about your Ronins, and funny looking 6 to 8K gooseneck gimbal cameras that a lot of filmmakers have started adopting. So Apple has yet to ban the apps on their platform, but it's been in discussion. So if that's the case, I'm not sure I want to go with DJI if I'm not going to be allowed to use it in the future. Like I said, right now it's mostly talking about drones and banning drones and such, but it has an implication to go everywhere because they're talking about basically anything connected to the internet, which every device requires a firmware update when you first get it. A lot of them will not let you continue until you do that firmware update. People are going to want to do firmware updates. Plus, also you had the apps on your phone to control it remotely. So this has big implications. Yeah, okay. I thought about the Insta360s. Those got a problem of their own that many people have reported. So there's no perfect action camera out there. There's no perfect camera. It all depends on your individual experience, the customer service, and also exactly what you use it for. So the thought of spending another $300 to $500 on another camera, then also having to get new batteries for it if the batteries are not compatible, then possibly also having to invest in an app, especially if I go with like an Insta360, which I would love a 360 camera. I mean, I'm a guy who basically I don't want to deal with camera settings. I just want to turn it on, record the footage, come home, edit my videos, and then get them posted. Even my Sony ZV-1, 90% of the time that thing sits in auto mode, and you know why? Number one, I don't use it for photographs. I use it for video. Now, you may blast me for shooting in auto mode, but here's the thing about the ZV-1. In auto mode, or actually intelligent auto, there's two modes. There's auto and intelligent auto. I use intelligent auto. Basically, that camera knows when I'm shooting a portrait, which is basically a person, whether I'm shooting landscape, whether I'm trying to get a macro shot, or whether something is backlit. The only time that I go through and change settings on that is if I'm doing something that actually requires me to manipulate the exposure, like sunrises, sunsets, because ZV-1 tends to overexpose in certain conditions. So basically, getting back to a camera that just works. I love action cameras. They're a primary use on my channel and my adventures, but I don't know what I'm going to go with in the future. I really don't. I don't want to spend another $300 to $500 for a camera that's only going to last a year or two before it starts going totally wonky, and there's absolutely no fix for it that can be done firmware, or at least nothing published. If I'm going to spend that type of money, I'm going to save up my money and either get something, another ZV-1, so that I can swap out this GoPro 7, put my ZV-1 up there, my older one, and use that as my desk camera. Or I'm going to get an interchangeable lens camera that would allow me to do so much more with filming. If I save my money and go down that route, we're talking at least $1,000. So we're already doubling the price. I also lose the functionality of an action camera. It'll not be a camera that can just get, dropped, tossed in a bag, taken out on a kayak, around water conditions while fishing. Got to be careful if I'm out camping and the amount of moisture and humidity and all that stuff. So I'm really at a loss at this point on what to do with the camera. Like I said, I'm going to use both these cameras until they totally die. It may be months, it may be a year, it may be a week. But the fact that these cameras are doing this, I don't know. I just don't know where we're going with action cameras at this point. There are so many choices out there. Every single one of them has some sort of problem. And as these generations go on, I mean, the GoPro Hero 3, Hero 4, those were not, and there we go, switching again. Those were not probably the highest quality cameras, but they were kind of like the most used, the most sought after camera. They're still selling them on eBay, and they basically lasted. I never heard of a Hero 3 or Hero 4 just having problems and dying. Yeah, they're not 4K, and YouTube, the internet, and us as consumers, want to get into the 4K, 6K. There's 8K cameras out there now, especially as we keep going down this road of video. People are expecting higher and higher quality. I don't know. I mean, if cameras are now being manufactured to the point that they're only going to be lasting a year or two, especially your action cameras, I really don't know. I'd rather invest in a camera that's going to last me several years. I mean, I've had my Sony ZV-1 now, and I use that not as much as an action camera, but I use that camera a lot. And I bought that back in 2020, just about the time of the shutdowns during COVID, because with everything being shut down, I had to have Best Buy send that to me versus actually going to a store and buying it. And I actually pre-ordered it, so the day that it actually got released to the public, the next day it showed up. So my ZV-1 has been going on 4 years now without a glitch. And I have an HDMI monitor hooked up with that, and I've yet to break the micro HDMI port. Hopefully, knock on wood, that it doesn't break anytime soon, because everybody knows the micro HDMI ports are not as strong as your full size. But I've yet to have problems with that camera. I've got a dummy battery for it and everything, and I love it. But my channel needs an action camera. And truthfully, I'll be honest, I do not know where I am going at this point with a new action camera. So GoPro may not be my next camera of choice, depending on how much longer this lasts. I can go out here and look up out on the internet basically every action camera produced in the last 3 to 5 years and show you problems they've had with batteries, recording, locking up, apps on cell phones not working properly, basically problems with the lenses, the clarity. Even DJI Osmo 3 and 4 has had reports of less clarity than the GoPro. Truthfully, I don't know which camera is going to be next on my channel. I really don't. But this is something just to think about when you're considering an action camera. How long are the batteries going to be switchable between the version you upgrade to? Because like I said, between the 7 and 8, they switch the battery size. So your batteries are no longer compatible. Is that going to happen after the current generation run that we're on the 12 and I have to start all over with batteries again? Because truthfully, right here is a stack of batteries for the GoPro Hero 11. I have 3 batteries for the 7 that don't get used anymore because I don't take that out in the field. Here's 4 batteries here, plus the one inside of the 11. So that means I have 5 batteries for this thing. for a day or two or weekend out shooting. And then, like I said, hooking up an external pack to it doesn't work. It's going to freeze up your camera. Doesn't matter if it's plugged in the Media Mod, doesn't matter if it's plugged in the GoPro itself, and doesn't matter if it's the Volta or if it's one of these generic ones. This is the King mode, which was very popular starting about the GoPro 6 and GoPro 7 as an external battery pack. And this battery pack still works great. I can use it on my Sony ZV-1. The only problem is I have to put in an adapter because this has the GoPro mount on it. And it also doesn't matter if you get one of those little bricks from like Anchor or... God, there's like so many hundreds of manufacturers now that do those little cell phone charging bricks. It doesn't matter if you power it off of that. It's going to lock up on you. And probably several times a day, which is why I don't use the battery packs anymore. So, yeah, that's just something I thought I'd share with you today, that when you're considering an action camera for your channel, chances are be ready to replace it in about 2 to 3 years. Because it seems like every one of these cameras now have apparent issues and they're just going to die. Especially the new ones. It seems like they're being manufactured to break and replace, throw away every couple of years. You know, I would love to get 10 years out of a camera. I mean, truthfully, the GoPro 7, if the battery door, the waterproof battery door hadn't broke on it, and also if it hadn't started going wonky between the widescreen and linear on its own, even though it's set to linear, I'd probably still be using the 7. Although, I must tell you, the 5K and stabilization on this is much, much better. So, I don't know, just some thoughts to consider when you're buying a new action camera, especially with adventure season coming up, where to go from here. Because I'll tell you, I would not put a $1,000 camera through the risks that these GoPro actually take. Now, this one here, I've never dropped it. It's gotten a little bit of water splashed on, but it's never been through a downpour. The 7 has. It never got wet. I always leave it in the Media Mod housing. Can't say that it's never got any moisture or dew, because I do take it camping, and you know, you do have these high humidity days, but the inside looks totally brand new. Never had a problem with an SD card on it. Like I said, my biggest problem has been using a battery pack on it. But now that this thing's starting to hit a couple years old and it's 1 generation old, I just don't know. I mean, this thing should be lasting longer than what it has. So that's just my thoughts, and to say that action cameras, they're great, but they're expensive and they could leave you with a headache. We'll see you in the next one.